All right, thank you for joining the Confident Leader Masterclass. I'm talking about our final segment, which is communicating confidence, becoming a confident communicator. And how would your life change if you could communicate to any audience at any time, at any place, and share your story without fear, without anxiety? What would that feel like? I've had some pretty traumatic events that have happened with me in communicating in my life, some that have lingered. I was given one, I was doing a keynote for an audience, and it was a topic that I wasn't comfortable with, and I was very unsure going in, and overanalyzed. My inner critic was raging before we started, and then right before I went on stage, a person comes up to me. So what it was is I was giving a keynote on how gender issues are connected to confidence, and that was the keynote. That was the topic. And I'm not a gender expert. I have 4 daughters. I love them. I'm married. I have plenty of experience with confidence. However, I'm not a gender expert. I'm not a gender expert when it comes to confidence. So I was nervous about the topic already. And just before I went on, someone from the peanut gallery, we all know what the peanut gallery is, right? We all know who the peanut gallery people are in our life. The person says to me, "Oh, and just make sure you don't mansplain, you don't exaggerate, you don't judge, you don't," like, I got this huge list of things that I'm not supposed to do. And I'm thinking, I'm about to give a keynote on gender issues, and I've just told to not mansplain. And I'm pretty sure by being a male keynote, I am going to be mansplaining. How do you not, like, my brain got completely jumbled. I completely lost focus, and it was an awful keynote. It was one of my worst. I was unsure. I was all over the place, and I came out sort of reeling. In the past, I would have been depressed, frustrated, angry, upset for months, maybe years. I may have even not ever recovered from that. And I was sad. Part of why I wrote my book is I wanted to help people like my girls. When I wrote my book, I thought often of I have 4 beautiful daughters and my wife, and my wife was my biggest encourager in writing my book. I would not have finished my book if it wasn't for Christy and her encouragement. And I wrote my book picturing my girls and picturing the world that they're living in, and picturing all the work we have yet to do around, treating everyone fairly. And here I am absolutely blowing this keynote, and it's over. And the judgment comes in. So in the past, that would have been on repeat for me for a very long time. I would have been an expert at letting my inner critic rage. Instead, this time, I listened to the feedback. I listened to my colleagues. I took ownership of what I should have. I understood how I needed a bit more of a sacred space before I go on stage, and I can't really reach out to peanut gallery comments right before. That's not healthy. That's not helpful for me. Ultimately, what I realized, my core issue in that is, Ben, you're still on a confidence journey. You haven't arrived. And you always will, even though you're teaching it, even though you should be an expert, even though you should have it all together. I'm still on my own confidence journey. And actually, that's reassuring to me. It's actually freeing to me. And so what would have normally taken months or years to process, I processed that situation in probably 48 hours. Within 48 hours, I was moving on to prepare for my next keynote. And the next keynote that I had, I was ready and I nailed it. It was probably one of the best keynotes I'd ever given. Right after that was done. However, I've had to work on this process, this storytelling process. I've had to work on that, on how to share my story, because when we're in public speaking is the #1 fear that most people have, over death. And yet we're always in these situations, aren't we? That we can't be completely prepared, that we can't have all the answers. People say to me all the time, Well, Ben, I'm okay speaking in public when I'm a subject matter expert, when I've had time to prepare, and when I'm fully in command and control of the content. I said, great. That's not possible when you're a leader. If you want to be a subject matter expert and you're sort of in one area and you're not influencing leading people, then you don't have to learn how to communicate your story. You can just do the individual work. You're in your office, you're by yourself, you're doing great work. Awesome. And that's amazing. And the rest of us that want to be leaders and want to have influence, we have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to recover when communication doesn't go well. And we have to be able to share our story, in my opinion, in any audience without fear. Because when you have that core, strategy in your back pocket of how to communicate with confidence, it doesn't matter where you are, you have that to go back to. This is my story. I can't get it wrong. Nobody can refute the facts. And I can share my story in a way that doesn't repel people, that doesn't push people away, but I can tell my story in a way that attracts people. And that's what we want to talk about in the final phase. In the Confident Leader Formula, this is the final transformation that we cover, which is, how do I become a confident communicator? How do I know what every confidence profile needs from me, and how can I master my own story? And there's 3 components that we look at when we're mastering our confidence story. This is the strategy that we take a really deep dive into. And step number 1 is the crisis. So all of you have heard me talk about the 8 jobs that I've had in 8 years. And I was miserable and I was at a crisis. I remember I took 8 laps around my office building when I was about to quit my 8th job. I took 8 laps around the building. I was emotional. I was crying. I was defeated. I was in a very dark space. What I tell people is, in that spot, when I woke up and I looked outside, the sky was actually gray. I didn't want to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to play golf, which normally I love. And that was a defining moment for me. That was a crisis. That was a crisis for me. All of you have your own confidence crisis. Because here's a horrible movie. Here's a horrible story, right? Hey, I was born, I was gifted, I was amazing. Life was perfect for me, and then it kept getting better. The end. Who's going to show up to watch that movie? No one. Why? Because it's not real. There's no reality to that story. There's nothing real or genuine about someone's life who's perfect. And it disqualifies us from being confidence coaches. If you want to be a confidence coach, pretending you have it all together and pretending your life is perfect disqualifies you from being able to do it. Why? Because people don't actually want to learn from perfection. People actually don't relate to someone who's had life all figured out. They relate to people who have some messes and have some challenges and have some stories. So when I tell people I had 8 jobs in 8 years, guess what happens if they're miserable in their job? Guess what happens when their inner critic is raging? And I explained how mine was raging. They go, Ben's just like me. He's not Facebook perfect, like everyone thinks. When we look at Facebook, everybody's perfect on there. Everybody's got messes. Everybody's got stories. Everybody's dealing with illness. Everybody's dealing with challenges. And when we can share those in a way that draws people in, that lets them know they're not alone, the number one reason why confidence issues linger is people think they're all alone, and they think they're the only one facing that challenge. And that makes me really sad, because no one should have to process their confidence issues alone. I processed them alone for too long. I kept it inside. I kept pretending life was fine. I just have to get through fill in the blank. I just got to get through March. I just got to get through this project. I just got to get through this relationship, this challenge I have at work. And the reality was I was simply suppressing all the emotions that I was feeling about not being enough, not being valuable, not being important, not living up to what I thought life would be like. And so that crisis, when we share our own confidence crisis, it doesn't push people away. It actually draws them in. So for you, what's your confidence crisis? Because the key to being able to use this story at any place is when I know what my confidence crisis is, any audience, if they say, Ben, what are your thoughts on that? I can use a version of my story, and they can be short or long. I can use a version of my story to let people know what I'm really about. And then I had then the second act in our 3-act play of our confidence story is the choice. So 8 jobs in 8 years, I had the choice. Do I want to numb out, survive my life, look back in regret, which I would have looked back in regret, guaranteed, and just say, I survived it? Or do I have to do some really tough internal work and look in the mirror and go, okay, I'm not doing so hot right now. How do I take an honest look in the mirror and decide and find out how I can be effective in my career? And luckily, I chose the second choice, which leads to the third act in our 3-act play, which is the call to act, the call to action. And the call was, once I learned how to find confidence in my own work, once I went from hating my work to liking my work to loving my work, when I made that transition, I'm like, I couldn't help but share it with others. And when I shared it with others, some people were, my friends were like, what's happened to you? What's going on? I'm like, well, this worked for me. And then they started trying it, and their leadership was getting transformed, and they're reaching levels of success they never thought possible, and their businesses were flourishing and huge impact. Then more and more people said, Ben, how does it work? Tell me the secrets. Tell me what you've learned from all your hours of research and your coaching and your mentoring and all your thousands of people that you've coached. Just tell us how it works. Give us the shortcut. And that was my call to act. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I know how painful it is. I know how frustrating it is to not feel like you're at your best self. So what if I could teach this process to others? And then that's where I always thought it would end. I always thought it would end at me just coaching people individually and sharing with them. And I really believe that's the rest of my career. And I'd be completely happy with that. And then I had more and more people asking and more people asking. And you know what? I fought it for a long time because I didn't believe group coaching would work. I was hesitant to it. I thought, you know what? The transformations that I'm experiencing with people one-on-one cannot be translated to group settings. It won't work. And so I fought it a long time. And then, again, I hired another coach, which every time I've hired a really capable coach, it's made a huge impact for me. I hired another coach to help me with this group coaching idea. And so I decided to test it. And I decided to test it this summer with 25 coaches that we brought on board, 25 people that went through the Confident Leader formula. And I was wrong. I was wrong. The cohort experience was amazing. And the way that the audience members learned and interacted with each other, and they met offline, and the discussions were even more, they're richer than what I did in my individual setting. And I knew I couldn't continue down the path of individual coaching. My schedule just won't allow it, right? My schedule, I was coaching 104 people, so I had to move to a coaching model. And right now I'm actually not even taking on any new coaching clients individually because my schedule is just, it doesn't fit into my schedule. And I still want to help people. And I still want to take these things that I've learned and try to help as many people as I can. And so that's where the Confident Leader formula came out of this call to act, right? I had this crisis. I made a choice. I wanted to do what I love. I want to find out what I'm designed to do with my life. And now I'm helping people do it. And now the final step is helping people do that in a group coaching model. And that's my call to act, is now I decided, that's the moral of the story, is if I went through this confidence transformation and I knew how miserable I was and how different my life is now, I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping people get their own confidence transformation. So for you, in your confidence story, what's your crisis? Think of a moment in your life where your confidence was clearly shaken. And maybe it's an overconfidence or an underconfidence. Most stories are under. Why were you shaken? It should be emotional. It should be meaningful. It should matter to you. Then second, what was your choice? What choice did you have to make in that crisis? A negative choice and a positive choice. We typically have both. Do I choose to tell the truth, or do I choose to cover it up? Do I choose to take action and take the risk, or do I choose to be passive and let it go by me? We all have that choice. We make it all the time. And then finally, once you made the right choice and you addressed this confidence issue for you, what happened? What happened in your life? What was your call to action? How's your life different now because of that? And then how are you using that to help others? And this is, we're covering this quickly, but we take a deep dive in this in the Confident Leader Formula. You actually will go through a process where I will individually coach your story. I will individually coach your story so that you could use this story on any stage. You could use it in individual coaching. You could use it with your team. You could use it on a stage with 50,000 people if you wanted to. And the stories that we got out of the summer are amazing. We had one person who literally got demoted, was about to lose his job, and he had a choice to make. Am I going to be the victim here, or am I going to take matters into my own hands? And now he's thriving in his role, and he's building his own coaching practice, and it's expanding. Others, as I mentioned, have started their own businesses. Said, you know what? The work that I was doing, I don't want to do that anymore, or I'm going to still do that, but I'm going to do this coaching on the side. And they started their own, and it starts with one person sharing their story. She had a horrible tragedy in her life. She lost her husband. And it's one of the most powerful stories that you'll ever hear in your life. She lost her husband. She had 2 little kids, and she had to go, what am I going to do? And you know what she decided her choice was? I'm going to become the CEO of myself. I'm going to become the CEO of my own life. And my choice is now I'm going to help other people, other widows, other people who are struggling with their own confidence challenge. So every person that has owned their confidence story, you can just see the level of confidence they have just elevates beyond anything than what they could think of. And they're coaching it, they're using it in sessions inside their organizations, they're using it with their friends and family. So this is a really exciting part of the program that I can't wait to share with more and more people. So what is the process from here? We all know overconfidence repels, underconfidence stalls, and authentic confidence attracts. So in this process, we teach you the confidence, the story that attracts an audience, that attracts leaders, that attracts clients, that attracts coworkers, that attracts people in your family to understanding your story and what that means for them. And what that means is, in the Confident Leader Formula, you will own and master your own story in the audience. And so just a final overview of what is the Confident Leader Formula and how does it work? There are 3 confidence transformations that it's a 6-month program. It's going to be starting in October. I'm going to be giving you more details on that if you're interested. It's 3 confidence transformations. It's inner critic to inner coach to outer coach to confident communicator. There's 6 months of live virtual sessions. There's 2 live sessions a month where I will be taking a deep dive into each of these topics. I'll be teaching these live. We'll also have interactive Q&A where you'll get interactive coaching sessions in this. You're going to get 15 MyCon Pro assessments that we just talked about. So the MyCon Pro assessments, that's from Harvard and St. Norbert College. This is this new assessment for this program. You're going to get access to a confidence portal with on-demand videos, teaching. You're going to get a keynotes from me, a live workshop, all the videos that I've taught on these topics. You'll get access to at any time. You're going to be with a cohort. So we have limited spots available. We already have over 20 signed up for the upcoming Confident Leader Formula. And we're going to cap this at 50. 50 is our max. And we have had a lot of interest, a lot of people on a waiting list. So once we hit 50, we'll be capped out. So the next 30 that sign up for this program starting in October, once we get that point, we'll be capped out. And there's going to be a ton of other bonuses. Those of you that know people who went through my summer program know I'm always giving bonuses. You're going to get live feedback on your keynote from me. There's going to be an audiobook. You're going to get a keynote that I've done in the past that you can use as a template, along with so many other things. And ultimately, I just want to help. So I want to help people on their own confidence transformation. We've proven now that the group coaching can work. It's exciting. And if it makes sense for you, would love for you to be a part of that. Here's some of the benefits that you're going to get. We're going to work on your negative self-talk. We're going to help you with the coaching process. We're going to help you influence ineffective leaders. And if you're interested, you can go to benfauske.com/confident leader formula. benfauske.com/confident leader formula. Coming up in the next week, we're going to be letting you know the costs, how it works. But for right now, we're just looking for people who are interested. So no obligation. But if you're interested in learning more about how the 6-month virtual coaching program works, would love for you to go to that page. You'll simply enter your email address and we'll be following up with you more as we go. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.